Hey everyone, welcome to the Anxiety Project YouTube channel. In this video, I'm talking about my 1-year NoFap journey. It's been a full year of NoFap, and I am so extremely proud and excited to share with you my experience with NoFap and why I believe NoFap is the lifestyle for you, and the amazing benefits of NoFap, and the what I experienced when going through NoFap, and so when I was young, in my teens, like everybody else, going through puberty, my hormones were like going crazy, and I had these strong sexual urges, right? Like any teen would. I became attracted to other girls in school. So the problem here was pornography, and this is where NoFap. I'm gonna put NoFap and pornography in the same category. And if you do NoFap, you shouldn't do any pornography whatsoever. It should be obvious, but you don't want that stimulation because it's a super stimuli. And so when I was young, I was subjected to that super stimuli via the internet. And so I believed it harshly impacted my relationships going forward, and fapping as well. And so when I was young, I Googled, is it healthy to masturbate? Is it, because a part of me, it felt wrong. It felt wrong to do it. I felt a little bit of shame and guilt, and at the same time, I was very curious, and it was very pleasurable, and it was confusing. So I Googled, and I was like, is it okay for a man to masturbate? And so on Google, it was like, yeah, it's perfectly fine for a man to masturbate, and it's perfectly fine to do it every day. It's healthy, it's the release of tension, and it's safe. It's safer than intercourse. And I was like, sweet, that gave me like the all clear, right? And I felt good about what I was doing. So I had this strong belief starting out that when I was young, that masturbation was healthy, that it was okay. And so that led through into my 20s, right? With this strong belief and not knowing the consequences it really does have over social interactions and your personal life, and how you physically feel. So I first discovered NoFap when I was going through my anxiety journey, when I started to improve all areas of my life. And I discovered, I'd never thought masturbation was a problem until I stumbled upon YouTubers who talk about the benefits of this NoFap. And it caught my attention because I knew deep down that it wasn't right. I knew deep down that it was a problem. So after stumbling upon these YouTubers, I discovered the benefits. They talked about how they felt going through NoFap, and how it improved their anxiety, how it improved social anxiety. All of these amazing benefits improved their energy. And then I was like, yes, this is something I'm interested in. So I started to do it. And I realized after going 2 or 3 days without fapping, I realized that it's been a problem in my life. I was addicted to it. It was an addiction. It was a bad habit that I needed to break, because I started to experience those withdrawal symptoms And I experienced, when I started NoFap, I experienced some anxiety, some depression, some irritability. I experienced some social anxiety. I experienced some frustration. I experienced a hypersensitivity to sexual cues around me. I experienced fatigue and a lot of defensiveness towards other people. So I started to, and then I would resort back to NoFap just so I could feel normal again. And then I realized, I've been addicted to it, because once you stop doing something and you realize you can't stop it, then it's an addiction. And since I had that strong belief when I was a kid that fapping was okay, it was harder for me to break that belief and to really get into NoFap. And so I started to, with the inspiration of YouTubers, I started to implement NoFap. I would go 3 days, and then a week, and then 2 weeks, and then I would relapse. So it was all about failing forward towards this higher goal, that I don't want to be a puppet. I don't want to be controlled by these intense cravings and controlled by this part of me that wants to masturbate, like to feel good, right? And so it was always tugging at me. Also, NoFap was a great way for me to become more disciplined. And that was my anxiety journey, was being more disciplined as a person. To be more disciplined, you have to pick your sacrifices. And so my sacrifice here was not fapping. And so that was the start of my journey. And now I want to get into the truth behind NoFap. And I have my notes in front of me. So if you see me looking down, that's because I compiled a list of things that I really, really, really want to talk about, that's really important when you start NoFap. And you should start NoFap, because there's a lot of benefits. But first of all, I want to talk about, there's a sense of alienation and a sense of separateness when you fap, when you continue to look at porn, when you continue to masturbate on a regular basis. Excuse me. So there's this sense of alienation, and this is what I experienced going on when I continued to fap. There's a lot of social anxiety involved as well. So once you start doing NoFap, you then experience these symptoms, the anxiety, the depression, the defensiveness, the hostility, the irritability. And when you do NoFap, you'll see that these sensations come about 2 weeks after you stop. So, and these 2 weeks is the hangover period. This period is when your system begins to regulate itself again, right? And you're not giving into FAP. You're not giving into those urges just to feel normal again. What's happening, your body's going back to normal on its own. And then you have to suffer through this hangover period, which is similar to the hangover period of doing drugs. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But so during this 2-week hangover period, once you stop fapping, there is a depletion in dopamine. And dopamine, which is the craving neurochemical, this neurochemical stimulates the brain's primitive reward circuitry, which then pushes you towards mating and masturbation, pushes you towards sexual satiety, right? So that's important to understand. It's important to understand how dopamine works when it comes to NoFap. That it's this craving neurochemical, and craving is an important word here. So whenever you do FAP, that dopamine high only lasts for that brief moment, and then you experience a dopamine crash. And this dopamine crash causes this 2-week hangover period where you feel irritable and you are very highly sensitized towards sexual cues in the outside world. So this constant fapping and this constant porn use only lowers your dopamine sensitivity. So now that you're an addict, you have two options. The first option is FAP again to feel normal and to jack up your mood artificially, or you continue with NoFap, but then you have to suffer the consequences of that hangover period. It's like getting off of drugs or alcohol. There's a hangover period. It's the same thing. It's the same circuitry in your mammalian brain, which is very, very interesting. It's more serious than people think. And it's not dangerous, but fapping is an addiction. And that's really important to understand if you're considering going through NoFap, or if you're going through NoFap, keep on going, because NoFap is a key to living a happier and healthier lifestyle. So when you do go, and when I was doing NoFap, my reward batteries became low. And so this left me with strong cravings. This left me with strong urges. And you have to fight through these urges. And believe me, I fought through these horrible urges to get to that other side. So your body balances itself out. So when you're in NoFap, when you're in that state, anything that promises this rapid relief will cause an intense dopamine spike. And NoFap is your return to a balanced dopamine sensitivity. That's why you experience all of those hangover symptoms. It's because your body is balancing itself out. You're getting your dopamine balanced again, which is fantastic. So going back to dopamine and it being a craving neurochemical, dopamine equals anticipation. Dopamine equals intense craving, anticipation, that wanting feeling. So that's why people can look at porn for hours without masturbating. It's that anticipation. They know it in the back of their mind that they're going to orgasm at the end of it all, but it's that anticipation that maybe the next video is going to be better. So they keep clicking on the next video. They keep clicking on the next video. And then an hour goes by, they fap, and then they experience the sense of lacking, the guilt, and they feel like all of their manly energy has been released, and they feel very vulnerable. And that's how I felt when I went through NoFap, right? I felt that all of these things, this vulnerability, it didn't come back. I mean, like, I felt less vulnerable. I felt like I had a lot more energy. My testosterone rose up, and I felt more social in social gatherings. So just remember, dopamine is that anticipation. It's that wanting. That's why porn is so addicting. It's that anticipation of that orgasm at the end of it all. And so porn is a super stimuli. You know, back then our ancestors didn't have this super stimuli. They had more oxytocin, which is the cuddling hormone, where they bonded more with other people. They bonded with their children more and with other people more. But with this porn and all the super stimuli, what happens is that oxytocin becomes numb, and then we crave, and we constantly crave porn. We constantly crave this sex with other women because we're constantly in this hangover period, constantly craving relief all the time. So I want to talk about this Dutch researcher, Gert Holstage. And he scanned the brains of men ejaculating. And what he discovered was these brain scans resembled the same scans as men shooting heroin. That's important to understand. It's the same scan, the same reaction. So this hangover period after ejaculation is similar, almost identical to someone overcoming a drug addiction. So fapping equals addiction. It works the same way. And the aftermath of a drug addiction in the mammalian brain is the same as the aftermath of fapping. Very interesting. So post-orgasm, dopamine decreases, causing all of those hangover symptoms. Irritability, hypersensitivity to sexual cues, all of that stuff. And then those cues send your dopamine levels into the red zone. And once that dopamine is in the red zone, you have this intense craving. And then your mammalian brain takes over all your rational thinking. It takes over. And now you're craving that porn video. Now you're craving masturbation to relieve and get back to that normal state, right? So our lifestyle equals too much stimulation, right? We have Netflix, we have the internet porn, social media especially. With all this super stimulation, what happens is you're going to have more frequent lows. You're going to have a lot more low points. And what happens when you have a lot more low points? That equals uneasy cravings. So when you have these uneasy cravings, your mammalian brain starts to scan the outside world for any signs of relief from that uneasiness, from that unpleasant hangover feeling. So now your mammalian brain is trying to help you out and say, hey, Go watch that porn video. Go masturbate. Go eat that junk food. Go eat that sugary food. Go watch Netflix. Go watch those useless porn videos. Go watch those useless YouTube videos and porn videos. But that's what's happening. Your mammalian brain is trying to put the Band-Aid on those uneasy feelings, that irritability. So now that hangover period has taken its course, right? So I also want to talk about my social anxiety after a 1 year of NoFap. So social anxiety goes away if you go on NoFap. The reason why it goes away is because you're not telling your mammalian brain anymore that, orgasm is valuable to you. Now oxytocin becomes active, which is the cuddling hormone, like I said before. Now you're bonding with other people. Everything else becomes more pleasurable. Now you're not looking towards porn. You're not looking towards masturbation. Everything else becomes illuminated. You're more sensitized towards the taste of foods, and you're finding the touch of other people more stimulating. I found that when I was with my girlfriend on NoFap, her touch, our hugging, our cuddling, our kissing is highly more stimulating. I'm very stimulated by those little things, right? Those little things became more enjoyable. It connected with me more on a more spiritual level. Tibetan monks say that ejaculation is the release of all spiritual energy. And so Buddhists believe that not masturbating, holding on to that energy, increases spirituality. And it stimulates other areas, like the oxytocin. You're going to bond with people more. You're not going to hide away like a hermit and stimulate yourself with porn anymore. And you're going to be more sociable. You're going to use that energy. You're going to harness this energy and use it during social gatherings. So the oxytocin is going to help you bond more. People are going to look at you differently. People are going to view you as a social butterfly. So that's why NoFap is important. That's what I've discovered after 1 year of NoFap. You don't objectify women anymore. You don't numb out that oxytocin anymore. You find the comfort in a hug more stimulating. I find, for me, the social anxiety a huge plus, where that went away completely on NoFap. I found the energy increase completely beneficial in my life. I go to the gym more, I work out, I feel more awake in the mornings, I sleep better, I meditate better, right? I can transcend way more deeply into transcendental meditation. And the irritability, my mood started to stabilize. Like I said before, there's that hangover period where your mood fluctuates. And then after 2 weeks of NoFap, my mood would balance itself out. And I wouldn't have those highs and lows, those low depressions, those high anxieties. They would regulate itself. Those are the benefits I experienced on NoFap. And realistically, realistically, if you want to get into a relationship, you're going to experience that person's sexy side and then their not so sexy side, right? You're going to experience them on bad days when they're not sexy, when they just woke up and she or he is in their pajamas and they don't look too well, or they're sick, right? They have a cold, they look unattractive. You're going to experience that, right? So when you watch porn, you're looking at porn through the lens of a perfect stimuli, right? This is your ideal person, how they're shaped, you know, and the sexual positions and the sexual acts. You start to look at that porn in this perfect idealistic way. But then once you stop looking at porn and stop fapping, what happens? You start to immerse yourself in the real world, and then a real relationship becomes more stimulating. And that person is not going to be perfect like in that porn video. So that's why porn is so damaging. That's why fapping is so damaging. Because you want to connect with that person. You want your oxytocin to be active, and you want to bond with them on a deeper emotional, spiritual level, don't you? And that's what I find to be the case on NoFap. That's why I've gone a year without NoFap. It's because all of these benefits occurred in my life. All of them. They all occurred. I have no intention of fapping and watching porn. It's like me being a non-smoker. It's like, Brad, are you gonna smoke a cigarette? I already know wholeheartedly I'm not a smoker. I don't touch that stuff because I've attached a lot of pain to smoking, right? So now I've attached a lot of pain to fapping, right? Fapping and pornography. I've attached a lot of pain. I've seen the benefits of NoFap. I've seen the benefits of not watching porn. They're huge. They're huge. So continue down that road of NoFap. Continue down that road and don't stop, and keep failing forward. If you have a relapse, continue again, just like I did. You know, you have a relapse, continue it again. As long as you're failing forward, you're on the right track. You're going to get to that ideal you. You're going to get there no matter what. And lastly, I just wanted to end this video with a quote, a really powerful quote on addiction. And this is relating to fapping. A lot of addiction is the result of experience. Repetitive, high emotion, high frequency experience. This is a quote by Howard Shafir. Really powerful quote. Turned out I was addicted to fapping, and this NoFap journey is just going to continue on, and I will be back to talk about my NoFap journey in a later video. But like always, I will be back with another video on anxiety recovery quite soon. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you haven't, click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Remember, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video. Bye.